Welcome to the Unwritten PhD. I'm Dr. Kshitij Tiwari, and this podcast is a guide to the messy, human side of a doctoral degree that no one ever puts in a textbook.
You know that feeling? It's 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Your inbox has 1700 emails from your supervisor, three of which are just asking any update, and your code just threw an error you have never seen before, despite the fact you haven't changed a single line since it worked just yesterday. You look at your screen, and for the first time in 18 months, you don't feel inspired. You don't feel like a scholar of the future. You feel stuck. You feel like you're shouting into a void that is slowly shouting back, and honestly, you're starting to wonder if the first year version of you, the one who was so excited about this topic, was actually just delusional. Welcome to the Mid-PhD Slump. It's the invisible wall that every researcher hits but nobody prepares you for. It's the gap where the novelty of being a PhD student has worn off, but the reality of becoming a doctor feels 100 miles away. We aren't just going to talk about managing stress. We are going to dissect the physiology of burnout. We are going to talk about why the system expects you to fail right now and how you can use a compass, specifically a set of unwritten rules to navigate this slump and turn it into your biggest breakthrough. Because here is the secret. The researcher you become on the other side of this slump is the one who actually earns the degree. Let's start with the why. Why now? If you're in your second or third year, you've survived the coursework, you've passed your qualifying exams, you should be in the flow state, right? Wrong. Most PhD scholars treat their research like a 4-year sprint. They live on a diet of coffee, cortisol, and the lie that says, I'll rest once this paper is submitted. But here's the problem with the cortisol loop. It was designed for short-term survival, running away from a lion, not for long-term knowledge production. When you stay in a state of high stress for 18 months, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for creative problem solving that you actually need for your PhD, literally starts to shut down. You're not lazy, you're not incapable, you're physiologically locked out of your own intelligence. I remember a moment during my own journey where I sat in the library for 6 hours staring at the same paragraph. I wasn't distracted, I wasn't on my phone, I was trying with everything I had. But the harder I tried, the less I understood. I had hit the wall. If you're there right now, the first thing that you need to do is stop the self-flagellation. You cannot hustle your way out of burnout. You have to strategize your way out. In my book, The PhD Scholar's Compass: From Burnout to Breakthrough, I talk about the fundamental difference between a map and a compass. When you started your PhD, you wanted a map. You wanted a set of instructions that said, do this for the first 3 months, then do that, then publish here, and so on. But academia doesn't have a map. Every PhD is, by definition, a journey into the unknown. If someone had a map of your thesis, it wouldn't be a PhD, it would be a lab manual. This is where the compass comes in. A compass doesn't tell you the exact path to take. It tells you which way is north. It keeps you oriented when the fog of data and the pressure of supervisor expectations makes you lose your bearings. The most important north on your compass is your purpose, not the purpose of your degree. We know that's to get the letters after your name. I'm talking about the purpose of your life during the degree. Are you a PhD student who is a consumer of knowledge waiting for syllabus? Or are you a researcher who is the producer of knowledge setting the agenda? If you are stuck in the slump, it's usually because you have slipped back into the student mindset. You're waiting for permission to take a break. You're waiting for your advisor to tell you the next experiment is good enough. You're waiting for a grade. The breakthrough happens when you stop looking for the map and start trusting your internal compass. I'm going to share the exact 3-step framework for active recovery, how to reclaim 20 hours of your week without slowing down your graduation timeline. But first, we need to talk about the lie of perfectionism. We have touched on this briefly in the previous episodes, but in the mid-PhD slump, perfectionism isn't just a personality trait, it's a parasite. You don't send that draft to your supervisor because it's not quite ready. You spend 3 weeks tweaking the formatting of a table that no one has seen yet. You convince yourself that unless every sentence is Shakespearean and every data point is a 5 sigma discovery, you are failing. Perfectionism is just imposter syndrome with a fancy suit on. It keeps you from the one thing that actually finishes a PhD, iterative progress. In the PhD Scholar's Compass, I dedicate an entire section to the dirty first draft. The goal isn't to be good, the goal is to be done. Because a done draft can be edited, an imaginary non-existent perfect draft cannot. If you are struggling with the slump, I want you to look at your to-do list for Monday morning. How many of those items are polishing and how many are producing? If more than 50% is polishing, you are hiding. You're using perfectionism as a shield to avoid the vulnerability of being judged on your raw ideas. This is the moment where we draw a line in the sand. This is a standard way to do a PhD. You suffer your grind, you complain in the lab at 9 pm, you neglect your family, you lose your health, and eventually you crawl across the finish line with a degree and a case of chronic fatigue. This is not the unwritten PhD way. We are the researchers who recognize that our brain is our only asset. We protect it like a professional athlete protects their body. We do not ask for permission to take a weekend off. We inform our teams that we are unavailable because high performance work requires high performance rest. We do not wait for a syllabus. We write our own project characters. We do not fear failure, we treat it as data. If you are in the slump, this is your invitation to join this mindset. The breakthrough isn't a new discovery in the lab. The breakthrough is the moment you realize you are the project manager of your own life. So, how do we apply this? If you're a listener who is truly on the edge of burnout, here's the framework. I call it the triage method. 1. Stop the bleeding. For the next 48 hours, do zero academic work. Not a little reading, zero. Your brain needs to flush the cortisol. 2. The 3-item rule. On Monday, you're only allowed 3 tasks, not 3 project categories, 3 specific actionable tasks. Once they are done, the laptop closes. 3. The supervisor sync. Send an email, not an apology, a status update. I have analyzed the current bottleneck. I'm focusing on X this week to ensure we hit the next milestone. This is how you use the compass to find your way back to north. We started today talking about the wall, that feeling of being trapped in the mid-PhD slump. We explored the physiology of why your brain is locking you out, and we looked at how the framework in the PhD Scholar's Compass can reorient you from a passive student to an active strategic researcher. The PhD is hard. It's supposed to be, but it's not supposed to kill you. The letters PhD stand for Doctor of Philosophy. Philosophy means love of wisdom. You cannot love wisdom if you're paralyzed by fear and burnout. If you are feeling the slump right now, I have a specific challenge for you. Don't go back to your desk yet. Go for a 20-minute walk without your phone. Let your prefrontal cortex breathe. And if this episode gave you a bit of that north orientation, Share it with your lab partners. Chances are they are staring at the same wall as you are. Keep writing your own story, trust your compass, and I'll catch you in the next one.
If you are a current or aspiring PhD scholar or a beginner in the world of robotics, make sure you hit that subscribe button and follow this podcast diligently. You won't want to miss what we have in store for you. This has been the Unwritten PhD. See you in another episode.